Oh, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to still another episode
Episode
of
of Behind
Behind
the
the Scenes
Scenes
with
with
Santa
Santa
and
and
Mrs.
Mrs.
Claus.
Claus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? We're going to go back to some, a lot of people enjoy some of our stories and some of the
Yes.
experiences
Yes.
we've gone through. And one of the things that we used to do and did it for many,
For a long time,
many
actually.
years.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Is we actually used to do photographs with kids at their schools,
Yes.
at their,
Preschools.
preschools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly preschools.
Yeah.
We had a
After
couple of
school care kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, we had a couple of private schools, but
Yes.
most of them were preschools.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, I mean, oh God, I can't tell you how many thousands of pictures we took
Oh,
over
yes.
the years.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
obviously, everybody's seen Santa in the mall setting,
Uh-huh.
or may have seen him doing photo shoots,
Yep,
or that kind of
yep.
thing. And schools were quite a different situation
Yes.
entirely.
Yes.
So, and while it was a lot of fun and some not so much, we had some fabulous schools,
We did.
and then we had some real nightmares.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we'll talk about it.
experiences.
Oh my goodness. we could go the whole gamut on
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't understand is what is involved
Ah,
with getting everything set up and
a lot.
and put into this
Yeah.
and everything that all the pieces that go together.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the person that handled all of that while I was sitting there just smiling away, holding kids, whether they were screaming or happy, was Mrs. Claus.
Yes. Yes.
Bless your heart. Thank you for all that hard work. And I'm going to let her tell you about
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
went into
Mhm.
this whole thing, because it's a lot more involved than anybody might guess. So
Yeah, it is. We actually, I think we had done something that we did an outlet mall in Tanger, and we did that for a couple of years, and then we decided it was so cold there during the season. We wanted to do
we
something else.
froze our butts off.
Yeah. So Ashley, our photographer, had said, well, why don't we do preschools? And we're like, well, yeah, I guess.
I guess we could do that.
So anyway, it actually started where Santa, thank goodness for, of course, the Google. We got a list of schools in and around our area, and he just went in, knocked on doors, and asked if people, if the school was interested, and we actually got a very favorable response, obviously. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, at one time we had like about almost 20 schools.
No, not quite that many. No.
About 15 though.
Yeah, we had 15
schools that we visited.
Yeah.
Initially, and then we started weeding them out.
Yeah, well,
for
like with
various
anything.
reasons.
Yes. So then once we decided to do schools, then our photographer was really good with equipment and such. So he sold us a Kodak printer. Now this, you may think, oh, I got a Kodak printer. No, this was a 50-pound printer. It was steel encased. And it was a printer that malls did use at that time.
It was, yay wide by yay tall.
Yeah,
I mean, this thing was a behemoth.
It was a big mother. And it actually ran on film. But it was great. I mean, it would print out a 5x7 in, I don't know, 30
30
seconds, I
seconds.
think.
Yeah.
And so I got a steel cart, or I think it was actually a baking cart that we found. And on the bottom, that's where we put the printer. And then on the top, I had a laptop. And then that was tethered to our photographer's camera. And in addition to that, then we also had, we had purchased a hand-painted backdrop, big 10 by 10, backdrop for Santa. And then the backdrop poles, to hold it. And then a chair, because we found, I think the first time or two we didn't bring a chair and realized that was not a good idea. So.
No.
So we brought a chair.
The chairs at the school were a little small for Santa, especially with a person on his lap.
Yeah. So that was, and then we had I had to take various paperwork and different things, to go there. So actually, while Santa was sitting in the car, Randy and I were, trudging in all this stuff into schools. Now,
sometimes where they put us, I mean, not only did you have to go upstairs to get into the school itself, but sometimes there were a lot of stairs. And in one school in particular, we had to lug it up to the second floor. And that's the cart, the printer,
everything,
the computers, the chair, everything.
Everything had to be lugged up.
Yeah.
And then, and some of the other ones were, not, I think there was only one or two schools, to be perfectly honest with you, that you could literally walk in the front door and it was level. All the other schools, you had some kind of maneuvering to do to get set up. Some of the times we had a room to ourselves, which was particularly nice. Other times we were stuck kind of in the middle of everything, which that created quite a chaos.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, we had a couple of schools. One in particular keeps coming to mind, where we were kind of like in a large classroom setting, like a double classroom setting or that kind of thing. And while they were trying to get set up, they had all these kids in there, and they were screaming and crying and acting up, and
well, they were 2 and 3-year-olds.
Well, so you put that whole big batch together, and
they were not happy. So needless to say, the background was sometimes a little unnerving. Trying to get everything.
Thank
to
God
work.
there was no audio with this.
Yeah. And of course, at times, like anything else, your equipment breaks down. There were a couple times where the printer wouldn't work.
Yeah, it would stall out. Yeah.
And
you still had like 30 pictures to print.
Pictures, and sometimes if we couldn't get it to work, we continued to take the picture. And then we'd have to come back, and we'd go home, print out the pictures, and then go back to the school. There were times when it was really challenging. And I think the other thing, of course, on that was Santa was also really challenged because, especially, of course, with little ones, as I'm sure if you have little ones and bring them to Santa, they're generally not very happy to be there. And they let Santa know. And,
yes, absolutely.
And of course, sometimes the teachers would come. We'd always have somebody, a teacher helping us, and they'd say, the parents don't want the child crying, or maybe they did want the child crying, or, they'd have all kinds of little specific instructions for us, which, we always try to do, but sometimes it's just kind of impossible to achieve. But overall, I will say this, and we'll get into some more details. Overall, it was a very successful. We had kids that we literally took pictures of as babies. And then through the years, then all of a sudden they were in first grade. So it really, from that standpoint,
To the point where I was still doing virtual visits with them,
yes,
even as,
yes,
as preteens and teens.
yes,
So,
yes,
I mean, yeah, these kids grew up with us,
yeah, they did, they
with
really
Santa
did.
and Mrs. Claus,
really did, yeah,
and they,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and of course to them we were the only Santa and Mrs. Claus because
Absolutely,
they had known us
yeah,
for so many years.
yeah.
But yeah, so uh, some rascals trying to get
Climb up
mom's
my
attention. Yes, so.
And then afterwards, when Randy and I were processing the pictures, because even though it took 30 seconds to print, when you have a bunch of kids all at once, that
It takes a
printer is
while.
still,
Yeah.
trying to catch up with all the pictures you're printing. So they would grab Santa
And march me all over the entire school, going into classroom after classroom after classroom to say hello and,
Yeah.
To once again thank them for coming in
Yeah.
and doing all this. The one thing I always found amazing is when we were trying to get the picture, it was like literally pulling teeth.
Yes.
With most of these kids.
Yeah.
But when I came into the classroom, it was like they were just, oh, hey, Santa, it's all fun and games, and let me give you a hug, and I was like,
Now
where were you then? What? Who was this kid before?
Yeah.
But oh my God, they would try, and here I am in full dress, which was very warm, and these big ass boots.
Yeah.
Which my boots are heavy. They are
very,
heavy.
Very, very big.
And then they're marching me down one hall and up another, and again,
sometimes stairs again.
and sometimes
Stairs.
2 stories up and down.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a physical challenge. I think even when we started that, I don't think we thought for a second that it would be quite the physical challenge that it turned out to be for both sides. I mean, I for some reason I didn't think I'd have to be, hefting these carts up with Randy upstairs and different things. I mean, and then in the beginning, as Santa said, we did a lot of schools, and of course, as with anything, you get the experience of doing it, and we did that for a couple of years, and then we started to say, maybe we don't need all of the schools. There was one school which
shall remain anonymous.
Yes, tested all of our patients. And let me say a little bit about our photographer, Randy. He is just unflappable.
Yeah.
Things would go wrong, and he'd just
Patience of Job.
He'd fix it. He was an excellent photographer.
Yeah.
I mean, he would get
always
Joe
got the great
in
shot.
the right position, and that's the other thing. We also have these great big huge lights that we
we
had.
can't forget the lights. We had to bring in the lights.
Yeah, he had the big lights, and he really did take excellent pictures. And he just, it was just one of these guys that it just took a tremendous, and I mean a tremendous amount to upset him. And there was one school that
succeeded.
Well,
regularly.
We got set up, and most of the time, even if we were like in that other school where we had to share the space, the teachers were really good about keeping the kids off the so-called set, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't, racing back and forth, and they were playing videos and stuff that they were actually really trying very hard to keep the kids quiet. This school, we got set up, and it was just whatever.
Yeah.
And the teachers had, I guess, a hands-off thing. We had so much trouble trying to take a picture because kids were running all over the place.
You talk about herding cats. Well, this was worse. I mean,
Oh.
they were everywhere and just young. I mean, we'd be sitting there and we'd have, kids on my lap and
Yeah.
stuff, and other kids would just come running in and right between the photographer and I while he's trying to take the picture, and the teachers were just like,
yeah, we couldn't get any help.
They're busy. And it's
Noise, it made that other school look like it was a
tomb.
library.
A tomb.
It was just screaming at the top of their lungs.
Mhm.
It was just.
Oh, they were fighting in there.
It was awful.
I mean,
it was
just
really, really awful. And we finally said, I think we did it 2 years.
And
the
said
second year,
again.
Randy said,
if you do this again, you're doing it yourselves, and I'm not coming.
Yeah, he said, I'm not.
Yeah, and
he said, I can't.
No,
we're
not gonna do that.
And so we did start to.
That's when we started paring down some schools.
Yeah, and some weren't. That was the worst school that we ever did. But some of them were just too small, and it just didn't, because of all the work involved again of taking everything in and out and all that. It just wasn't worthwhile to do it. They were a little bit too small for us.
Well, and we even had a school who, I don't know what kind of kids they had or what kind of parents they had, but we got stiffed on several of our payments.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I remember that one.
And I mean, it was like, out of the pictures we did take, and there weren't that many pictures.
No.
But of the ones we did take,
at least half.
we never got paid for.
No.
For a bunch of, and it was like, so needless to say, that one got scratched off rather quickly
that
too.
Didn't work, work
and,
well.
And the school wouldn't help us, retrieve the money or
they
do
were
anything.
just,
They were like, oh well.
Just
I guess they couldn't afford it. And it's like, okay.
Well, the things, but overall, like I said, it worked well. I mean, and
it was a good experience for a lot of years.
Yeah, there were also times when, you especially again, if like that one school where we had to share the space, it generally took us, we used to get there around 9 o'clock in the morning, because most of the kiddos would be in by 9. And then they wanted us out by
before lunch.
Yeah, so
which was like 11 o'clock.
11:30.
11:30 at the latest.
And I'll tell you,
a lot of work in a little time.
Yeah, and Randy and I were more often than not, we took down as much as we could, and I'm still printing the pictures. Are you done yet? No, I'm still printing the pictures. So
meanwhile, they're feeding the kids.
Yeah, are you finished yet? No, I'm still printing the pictures. So there were some stressful times on me of me and Randy trying to, get all the pictures printed and all that.
Yeah, because obviously you can't move all the equipment out until the pictures are done.
So, but it was, again, overall, it was a fun experience, and certainly different than other venues that we had done. Schools are quite a bit different, and the ones the core schools that we ended up though were great. We had two in particular, some really wonderful private schools that we did that were just that was a joy to go in.
And their kids are still near and dear to our hearts.
Yes, actually, we still have
are in touch with them. And they call us and they
so
we do virtual visits when we can and that kind of thing. So
but that was a big part of our Santa experience
for many years.
Many years. Yeah, that was a
actually we did that much longer than we did like the Tiger Mall or anything like
we
that.
Did.
I mean, so that all kind of came out of it, and we thought it was great because at least we were going to be inside. Oh, and that didn't mention. Yeah, don't forget. A lot of times it rained as we were trying to pull stuff in. Yes. We even had snow on several occasions.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, all while we're trying to move stuff around,
in and out. Yeah. Yes.
It was a challenge.
It was.
So if you think Santa has an easy life, he doesn't, and Mrs. Claus has a worse one. And our poor friend Randy is just, he retired. He said, never again.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we finally all got together
Yeah.
and said, we're getting too old to pull all this stuff up and downstairs and everything else.
Which really was
the
was
case.
the truth. I mean, that it got
Yeah.
to the point where I was just things were, because all that stuff was heavy,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't lift it anymore. Just
Yeah.
was too much for me, and
Yeah.
so. Excuse me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this
Yeah.
episode.
Just a little
Yeah.
glimpse into our previous life.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're gonna be we're gonna be traveling soon, so you might see different backgrounds and
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing coming up. So, but yeah,
But we're still going to be here with you, so
we'll be looking
yeah.
forward to meeting you again.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just, we do this twice a month on the 10th and the 24th.
And please like and subscribe and click
yeah.
the bell for notifications, and so you never miss, not your bell,
No.
so you never miss an episode.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
well, thanks for joining us for this, and I hope you got a kick out of hearing our little adventure.
yeah.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.